Hi, everyone, and welcome to CliniScrips podcast, where we'll dive into the intersection of AI, mental health, and the real-world clinical practice. And today, I'm very excited to be joined by Jordana Watson, a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Co-Parenting Solution. So Jordana specializes in one of the most challenging and sensitive areas of mental health, the co-parenting therapy for divorced or separate families. So unlike many therapists, Jordana's entire practice is laser focused on helping parents navigate the complexities of raising children across, like the two homes, often in high conflict or court-involved situation. And her work sits at the crossroads of the therapy and the legal system, which brings unique challenges when it comes to documentation, privacy, and trust. Jordana, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. Gosh, I wish I could take you with me everywhere to explain what I do.
That's great. Okay, let's kick this off with the topic that's really central of your work. So co-parenting therapy isn't just emotional complexity. It often comes with legal stakes as well, right? So what's been your biggest challenge in using AI tools in a setting where documentation can potentially end up in court?
Right. So probably the biggest challenge is that I do have to take very detailed notes in sessions, and I can't rely on, later that evening, just, updating notes. It's not the same as regular therapy because some of the things discussed and some of the agreements made are very detailed. They're logistics. Let's say we agreed that we're going to pick up at 5 p.m. on Saturday at the police station. And the challenge is sometimes people will call me after or email me and say, didn't we say this because this person is saying we didn't say this? And so I really have to make sure that I'm note-taking during sessions to be able to grab every single detail of what everybody's talking about. So I'm very attracted to using an AI type of program to help me with that. Because the other problem is I want to be focused on the family when I'm meeting with them. I need to be able to pay attention to body language, to facial expressions, to how people are behaving in a session so that I can help them through the best way I can. And I feel like taking all those notes takes away my focus. Like there's times I've been taking a note and somebody will say, didn't you miss that eye roll that they just gave me? Or they just mouthed something to me. And yeah, I missed it. So I really want to have something that helps me keep track of those important things that people are sharing with me, but also allowing me to focus on the parents. So my challenge is that people often want to utilize sessions and my notes from sessions in their court cases. And I am very clear with my clients that I'm not going to provide notes and raw notes if they are interested in receiving a service summary for a particular session or for all of our work together. They need to pay a fee for me to put that together because I certainly want to make sure that it's written in a way from clinical observation from a neutral perspective and really holds the relevant information that's needed. So a challenge has been that since I had started using AI, which most people are very understanding when I explain to them that I want to be able to have my full attention on them and not on all the notes, and I want to track what they're discussing. A challenge has been that people are calling me and asking me for transcripts. And I know that they want to either use those transcripts in court, post pieces of those transcripts on social media, share them with friends and family. And it just feels like such a violation of everybody's privacy, including mine, in the session.
Yeah, that really highlights how different your work is from traditional therapy. Just like what I mentioned before, like it's not just about emotional processing, it's also about capturing places, agreements, and the logics. And that can have legal and real life consequences. So I can absolutely see why having bulletproof records is essential and why relying on memory after the fact just isn't enough, right? Yeah, and you also mentioned that in your description that you experimented with tools like Verified and AI Zoom, but the fact is you have to challenge around the client's awareness and comfort, especially when it comes to generating the transcripts, various summarizes. So from your perspective, what would an AI tool look like to balance your need for detailed documentation with the need and to maintain, the trust and manage client's expectation?
Yeah, so I think that an AI tool that maybe utilizes a transcript to generate really excellent notes and then deletes the transcript would be very helpful. So I don't need to hold on to a transcript if I have really good notes. And then I can be very honest and forthcoming with my clients that the transcript is deleted within a couple of hours or 24 hours by the company, and that it's not available, and that just the notes are available. And I think the way notes are put together is, if I can put it together in the way that I would in a service summary, in a very neutral, clinical manner, it would be better and something that I could easily share. And I'll say, like with Fireflies and Zoom, part of the issue is that they're not really tailored to mental health professionals.
Yeah.
They're really tailored, I feel like, more for businesses and business meetings. And so sometimes I'll read through their summaries and the action items and things like that. And actually, it's a little entertaining at points because of how it's written, as if, and certainly we try to get down to business. And I actually tell my co-parents that I want them to act in a professional manner and like they would in a business and work together. But it's a little bit much. It's missing that component of the mental health piece.
Wow, that's such a thoughtful solution, like by using the CliniScrips as a temporary tools to build high quality note, but ensuring it's deleted quickly to maintain
Yes.
both ethical integrity and the client trust. So I love how you are thinking not just about functionality, but also about clear communication with clients to, reduce their anxiety around sensitive data.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I can be really honest with them that it doesn't exist anymore. And I mean, with like Fireflies or Zoom, unless you go through and delete it yourself, and I'll probably forget to, then the transcript exists. So then I wouldn't be honest with them. And I think too, like, I wouldn't be so concerned about having the transcript deleted immediately if in fact I was getting really high quality notes from it and everything that I needed was there, because really nobody needs the transcript. And, I think one of the things that I enjoyed about the demonstration that I saw of your product was that there was something about vague conversations you could delete out of there. And, I was saying sometimes, you'll start a session and maybe everybody makes a little bit of small talk in the beginning, personal stuff. And so I feel like that doesn't need to be in the notes. and people don't want their privacy violated that way.
Yeah, true.
I would never include in my notes, like, when I was doing a service summary that they might turn over to the court, that like, when they arrived in, I commented that they didn't, look like they were feeling well, and that they explained that they had been sick and throwing up for 3 days. Like, whose business is that?
Yeah, exactly. So another challenge you've mentioned really stood out to me. Sometimes AI tools, you mentioned that misinterpret your role in the session, especially during the, the individual meeting, and confuse you with one of the co-parents.
Yes.
So, right. So what improvements do you think like AI system need to make to better understand context and the role in this kind of specialized therapeutic settings?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm always identified as the counselor, like, I shouldn't have to like enter myself each time as being the counselor. Like, if I have an AI system, it should get to know me and it should know who I am and what my role is. And it's funny, especially when I have individual sessions with a client, because sometimes well, first of all, I do an intake session with everybody individually before I meet with them together. But sometimes I'll also do some individual sessions in between, group sessions, to do some extra coaching with a co-parent, or maybe they have something they want to privately share with me that they don't want to say in front of the other parent, or figure out a way to share it with them and need some advice on how to do so. And in those cases, a lot of times the AI thinks that I'm in a relationship with them and that I'm the co-parent, or, or their girlfriend or whatever. I mean, it's really bizarre. And then I have to go in and change everything. So it's really frustrating. And I feel like, gosh, after so many times, you should know that I'm working in this role. And I think that this is something that will help if I can be identified all the time as the therapist. That will immediately change all of the format of the notes.
Yes, I can imagine like how frustrating that might be, especially when the AI is trying to be helpful, but ends up the mispresentation and who's actually spoke or involved. So that kind of error doesn't just waste time. It can really, like the compromise the clarity and professionalism.
Sometimes it's humorous. Sometimes it's humorous. Sometimes it thinks I'm in a polyamorous relationship with these people. So it can be humorous, but it's not helpful.
Yeah, like I know like the, zooming out a bit, you've also talked about how clients sometimes feel, uneasy when they know AI is part of the session, especially when tools like Files attend meeting, right? And in your experience, what do you think that would help clients feel more comfortable and the reassure about the use of AI in therapy session, especially in sensitive co-parenting cases.
Yeah, so I think when I've used Zoom AI, it's a little more subtle. I don't know what comes across the screen for them about using AI, but with Fireflies, which I do like their products, but part of the problem is they join a meeting as like, as if they're a person. Now, I always forget about it because I always say hide non-video participants. So, but for somebody who's in gallery view on a Zoom, it shows up as a window and it says Fireflies AI. So right away, people are like, who's this in our meeting? And actually, the way I got to know Fireflies was I was in a meeting with somebody who was using it, and I had the same reaction. I'm like, do you know that there's something weird in our meeting? There's something weird. And actually, I was at a meeting somewhere in a volunteer capacity on a board I'm on, and I don't know why, but it was so weird. I came in by Zoom, and my Fireflies followed me, and and everybody's like, who's that Fireflies? And I had to own it. I'm like, oh, hold on, just put it in the waiting room. Just put it in the waiting room. So it's awkward because that feels very invasive for people, including myself, and I can understand how that feels strange. So something a little more subtle would be really nice. Now, I certainly don't mind, and I'm always, I do need to add to my paperwork that I'm using AI tools, but honestly, I do let clients know anyway when I come onto a screen and they ask me about it, or I mention it to them, just so you know, I'm testing out a new AI tool because it helps me to take notes, and so that my focus can be on you and everybody is happy with that. That's fine, because they understand that if I'm sitting there just totally focused on taking notes the whole time, I'm not there for them.
Yeah, it really shows that how even small interface design choices can have a huge impact on client trust and comfort. So when AI tools feel too visible in the room, it naturally raises the questions and sometimes suspicious, even if the intention is harmless.
Right, exactly. Right? And I've never had anybody say, can you turn it off, or I don't want it. So most people are totally fine with it. And in this day and age, they're very used to it. So it's fine. It just needs to be in a way that's a little bit more subtle.
To wrap up, I'd love to know more your thoughts on a little bit more broader. So as someone working in a highly specialized and sensitive field, so what's your outlook on how AI might reshape the future of co-parenting therapy? So are you hopeful, cautious, or a little bit of both?
I'm actually very hopeful. AI is one of those things when it comes to co-parenting therapy. It certainly can't take the place of the people and the professionals that are helping. When somebody's going through a difficult time, going through a divorce or separation, or having a difficult time with their ex in terms of co-parenting, there's nothing like a person who can provide compassion and empathy and tools and strategies that are specific to their needs that can be helpful. So I have no worry about like AI replacing therapists or anything like that. I know in many fields that's what people worry about. So for me, why I say I'm hopeful is I look at AI as a tool that can only help therapists. I feel like I know so many therapists who, talk about, or I see it on message boards, like where they discuss how taking notes or, updating notes is like the bane of their existence in terms of their stress levels. And as mental health becomes more in demand, and we do have a big mental health crisis in this country, we need to be able to spend our time on our clients and not the grueling note taking and fixing up our notes and things like that. And we need really good records. We do, because people come back years later needing information for good reasons. And, it never happens that like I met with somebody and then I'm going to court the next day. It's usually 2 or 3 years later and I'm asked to testify in a case. And, you really have to have good notes to be able to rely on them and have what you need. So our memories are just not as equipped as AI.
Yeah. Oh, I really like your perspective. Hopefully, but grounded in the reality that human connection and empathy are irreplaceable, especially in the kind of the work you do, right? AI can be a powerful assistant, but as you said, it's the human support and the care that truly make the difference in people's lives during the challenges transactions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jordana, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing your
you.
experience,
Thank
your
you.
honesty, and your vision for what AI could become in co-parenting therapy. That has been such an insightful conversation. And thanks to everyone listening to the CliniScrips podcast. If you're curious how AI can support mental health professionals without losing the human touch, be sure to follow us and stay tuned for more. Until next time.